Many financial commentators and financial experts are predicting an imminent recession in 2023. Financially successful and smart people understand what recessions are, how they work, and they're usually prepared for it. My question is, are you? Technically speaking, a recession is a quarter, 3 months of negative GDP growth in a country. And generally what it means is that the cost of living has gone up, interest rates typically go up, and vast majority of people struggle to be able to afford the same things that they were able to afford just last year or a few months ago. Generally, when a recession happens, the vast majority of people go backwards financially. But a small select group of people are able to move forward financially because of their understanding of financial recessions and because of the preparation that they do prior to the recession. In any major economy, recessions are normal, and some may even argue they're necessary. And when the recessions strike and there is some sort of an economic crisis, a lot of people tend to lose their jobs. Many people struggle to make ends meet, but a lot of people become even wealthier in those times. It is quite possible that a lot of people are not prepared for the recession that is just around the corner. But the question is, for the next recession, what are the things that you can do to understand how to prepare so that you can take advantage of the next recession rather than be left behind? In any financial recession, there are winners and losers. And here are some of the things that you can do to prepare for a recession so you don't go backwards financially like the vast majority of people. It is important to understand that recessions generally happen between a 4 and 10 year time frame, but sometimes it can be even more than 10 years. And you've always got to be prepared for the storm before the storm comes in, because by the time the storm is around the corner, it's too late, and most people will find themselves at a disadvantage. So here are some of the things that I do and I recommend to people who want to prepare for a recession way in advance. Number one, I continually work on refining my skills and upskilling myself, and I always want to make sure that I have a multitude of skills that I can leverage off. Now, in a day and age where you have the internet, there is absolutely no excuse for people to not continually refine their skills. The more skills you have, the more employability you have, the more leverage you have, and the more you have the ability to create multiple streams of income, which is why every single person needs to be upskilling themselves. Most people become lazy when times are good. When the income's coming in and they can easily afford the things they want, that's the time where most people become complacent. But people who are financially successful, they do not become complacent. Whilst everybody else is becoming lazy and complacent and having a good time, wealthy people are always preparing, planning, and strategizing. One of the things you want to do is when the times are good, you need to be upskilling yourself, because at some point the recession is going to strike and you want to make sure that you're prepared for it. The second thing that you want to do is, if you have any high interest debt, you want to be paying that down as aggressively as possible the moment you start to hear the news of a recession. The problem is, by the time the recession strikes, generally speaking, the cost of debt goes up, which means for the average person who's already got consumer debt, car debt, credit card debt, they're going to find it even more difficult to make ends meet. So the moment you start to hear that the economy is on a slippery slope, start preparing for the recession. And one of the things you can do is you can start to allocate any surplus cash flow towards paying down debt aggressively. If you have mortgage debt, if you have investment debt, or if you have business debt, it may not be such a good idea to pay down that debt. A better strategy might be to fix the interest rates if possible. Now, you need to understand that there is a bit of a risk in this, because if the recession doesn't strike or the interest rates go down, you might lock yourself in at a higher interest rate. But if you're pretty certain that we're heading towards a recession, it may be a very good idea to lock in the current interest rates before the interest rates skyrocket, because that's generally what happens in times of recession. The fourth strategy that you can have to prepare for a recession is always have an emergency fund. Generally speaking, you want to have about 6 to 12 months worth of your living expenses in an emergency fund. In case you lose your job, last thing you want is to go through financial stress, and the last thing you want to do is to sell down your assets. In order to avoid that situation, which typically happens to a lot of people at recessions, you always want to have an emergency fund. And what's the best time to build an emergency fund? When things are good, when the income's coming in, and when the cost of living is easily affordable. Unfortunately, that's the time when people spend a lot of money. So by the time the recession hits, they have no emergency funds, and they're skating on thin ice. If the danger line's here, they're so close to the danger line that they're not giving themselves any room. You want to be well away from the danger line. In case the danger strikes, you want to make sure that you are safe, and an emergency fund provides you with that protection. If you think you're heading towards a recession, is immediately start to curb your lifestyle expenses. You see, lifestyle expenses are discretionary. Look at everything that you're doing right now that you can do without. Lifestyle expenses are not necessary in recession times. So look at where you're spending money. Could it be your cable TV subscription? Could it be that you can maybe cancel that golf course membership? Maybe you can give yourself your own haircuts. You see, desperate times require desperate measures. The moment you hear that you're getting into a recession, the moment people are starting to talk about it, you can start to see that the government is starting to raise interest rates, the cost of living is going up. Those are all signs that you need to start restricting your lifestyle expenses immediately. Number 6, if you really plan this well, you should be sitting on a pile of cash. Because when recessions strike, typically there is a significant drop in asset values, whether that's real estate or it's businesses or it's stocks. And a lot of people become wealthy in times of recession because a lot of people are not getting into business at that point. A lot of people are not buying real estate. A lot of people are not buying stocks because everybody's panicking. At this time, the prudent and the savvy investor who is cashed up, who's been preparing from a long time ago, gets into the market and ends up securing these assets at bargain prices. Number 7, always have a plan to increase your income. These days, remaining in the same job for more than 2 years, in most cases, is not going to work out for people. You constantly need to be aiming for the next job. You need to be asking yourself, what are the roles, responsibilities, and the competencies required for you to get that next position? And you need to be working for that the moment you land your current position. Always have a plan to increase your income. In fact, these days I'm recommending that people need to have some sort of a side hustle, some sort of a business opportunity out there where they can be a partner in a business or a co-founder, and they can trade their skills for cash flow income or for equity or profit share. If you're doing none of these things, you're one of those people who is unfortunately driving without a seatbelt. Sometimes you can drive without a seatbelt and never have a crash. But unfortunately, recessions are like that crash. If you ever have that crash, you want to make sure that you're in the best car. But even in that best car, you want to make sure that the seatbelt is securely tightened so you can protect yourself from that crash.